Welcome to the Conscious Divorce Podcast, where we explore divorce not as an ending, but as a transformative opportunity to reclaim your life, reboot your identity, and become the person you are always meant to be. I'm Justin Milrad, certified divorce coach, MBA, financial planner, and relationship coach, as well as founder of Reclaim and Reboot Divorce Coaching and author of You 2.0, Divorce, A Better Way Forward. Before we dive in, a quick note. This podcast is designed to share ideas, stories, and insights from my years working in the mental health field, helping individuals navigate divorce, and from my own personal experiences. I'm not a therapist, attorney, or doctor, so this podcast is meant to complement, not replace, professional guidance from such qualified experts. If you find this episode helpful, please share it with someone you know, hit that subscribe button, and drop a review. It really helps us reach and help more people navigating this challenging transition. Now let's get into today's episode. The moment that changed everything. There's a moment I'll never forget. I was sitting in my living room in Atlanta, staring at two half-packed boxes, and my daughter walked in. She was 7. She looked at me with her puppy dog eyes and said, "Daddy, do you still love Mom?" And in that instant, everything I thought I understood about my divorce, the legal strategy, the financial planning, the logistics of who gets the house, none of it mattered. What mattered was the confusion on her face, the way she was trying to make sense of a world that had suddenly stopped making sense. She wasn't asking about love in the abstract. She was asking, is my family still real? Is everything I believed in a lie? I wasn't prepared for that question. I fumbled through something about how love can look different, how mom and dad still care about each other, but are going to live in different homes. But the truth is, I didn't have the right words, and I should have. That moment changed a lot for me. I realized that all my MBA training, all my years of corporate leadership at Fortune 500 companies, none of it had prepared me for this. I had spreadsheets for possible settlement. I had strategy for legal proceedings, but I had no script for the most important audience in my life, my children. It's a big part of why I became a divorce coach, why I wrote my books, and why I'm recording this episode today from my home studio here in Atlanta. Today, we're tackling what might be the single most important conversation of your divorce journey: how to talk to your kids about what's happening in a way that minimizes trauma and builds their sense of safety and security. Let me share some numbers that frame why this matters. The American Psychological Association estimates that roughly 40 to 50% of first marriages in the United States end in divorce. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, approximately 40% of American children will experience parental divorce before they turn 18. That's nearly 19 million kids growing up in a single-parent household formed after a marriage ends. And that number doesn't even account for the children of unmarried parents who separate. The reality is that family restructuring is one of the most common experiences of American childhood. Now, here's the part that keeps parents up at night. Research consistently shows that children of divorce face an elevated risk of anxiety, depression, academic struggles, and behavioral challenges. Paul Amato's landmark 2001 meta-analysis in the Journal of Family Psychology found that children with divorced parents scored measurably lower on psychological adjustment, academic achievement, self-concept, and social relationship compared to peers in intact families. With that being said, I want you to know that your children, while extremely important, are only one consideration on whether or not you move forward in a divorce. But this is the part I want you to really hold on to. The research also shows that most children of divorce are resilient. The effects are real, but they are not destiny. When parents handle divorce thoughtfully, with low conflict, consistent routines, and open emotional support, children don't just survive, they can genuinely thrive and build life skills. That's what this episode is about, giving you the knowledge, the language, and the confidence to have these conversations well. Here's what's coming. In segment 1, we'll explore the psychological impact of divorce on children, broken down by age and developmental stage. In segment 2, we'll prepare you for the first conversation: timing, setting, what to say, and what to avoid. In section 3, we'll walk through 8 specific scripts for toddlers, school-age kids, and teenagers, including live role-play examples. Segment 4 will cover long-term healing strategies, and segment 5 will feature real listener questions and stories from other parents who've walked this road. Let's begin. Segment 1, understanding the psychological impacts. Before we talk about what to say, we need to understand what is happening inside our kids. Because when we understand the why behind their reactions, we can respond with empathy rather than panic. Short-term effects. In the immediate aftermath of a divorce announcement, children commonly experience what psychologists call an acute stress response. This can look different at every age, but the core feelings are remarkably universal: fear, confusion, sadness, and often anger. According to the American Psychological Association, short-term effects frequently include increased anxiety and worry, sleep disturbances, regression to earlier behaviors like bedwetting or clinginess in younger children, difficulty concentrating in school, and a pervasive sense of guilt. That last one is critical. Children, especially those under 10, are egocentric thinkers. They naturally believe the world revolves around them, which means they often conclude, "This must be my fault." You may also see behavioral changes: a quiet child who suddenly acts out, or an outgoing child who becomes withdrawn. These aren't signs that your child is broken. They're signs that your child is processing something enormous with a still developing emotional toolkit. I want to normalize something here. If your child's teacher calls to say their behavior has changed or their grades have slipped, your first reaction might be shame or panic. Take a breath. This is a predictable response to a major life disruption. It doesn't mean you failed. It means your child is human and they're doing the best they can with the tools they have. Your job is to help them build better tools. Long-term effects. Well, longitudinal research paints a more nuanced picture. Amato's 2001 meta-analysis, drawing on 67 studies published through the 90s, found that while 88% of effects pointed towards lower well-being among children of divorce, only 42% of those effects reached statistical significance. In other words, the impact is real, but more modest than many fear, and highly influenced by surrounding circumstances. Long-term risk can include lower academic attainment, higher rates of relationship difficulties in adulthood, elevated risk of mental health challenges, and in some cases, a higher likelihood of the children themselves divorcing later in life. One study found that the risk of divorce increases by about 50% when one spouse comes from a divorced household and doubles when both do. But I want to be very clear. These are risk factors, not certainties. And the single most important variable in whether these risks manifest is not the divorce itself. It's what happens during and after the divorce. Here's an analogy I use with my coaching clients. Think of your child's emotional development as a garden. Divorce is a storm. Some storms damage gardens severely, but the same storm passing over a well-tended, deeply rooted garden does far less harm. Your job as a parent going through divorce is to tend that garden with everything you have, to be the root system that holds, even when the wind blows hard. Age-specific vulnerabilities. Toddlers and preschoolers, ages 2 through 5, don't understand divorce conceptually. What they feel is absence. If daddy isn't in the house anymore, their developing brains may interpret that as abandonment. They may become clingy, fearful, or regress to behaviors they've outgrown. Separation anxiety can spike. Nightmares are common. School-age children, roughly 6 through 12, have enough cognitive development to understand that something significant is happening, but not enough to fully process it. They may feel caught in the middle, may fantasize about reconciliation, and are particularly vulnerable to loyalty conflicts, the agonizing feeling that loving one parent means betraying the other. Teenagers often react with anger, sometimes directed at one or both parents. They may feel betrayed, disillusioned about relationships, or burdened with a premature sense of adult responsibility. Some teens withdraw emotionally, while others act out through risk-taking behaviors. The emotional security framework. Here's the theoretical lens I want you to carry through the rest of the episode. In 1994, psychologists Patrick Davies and E. Mark Cummings proposed what they call the emotional security theory. Their central insight was this: children's emotional well-being is fundamentally tied to the sense of security within the family system. When that security is threatened through conflict, instability, or the rupture of the parental relationship, children's ability to regulate their emotions and behavior is compromised. But here's the flip side, and it's powerful. When parents actively work to preserve their children's sense of emotional safety through low conflict communication, predictable routines, and consistent reassurance, children's security can be rebuilt. The foundation doesn't have to crumble just because the marriage did. Researchers have identified key resilience factors that protect children through divorce. First, low interparental conflict. This is the single strongest predictor of positive outcomes. Second, consistent routines and structure. Knowing what comes next in the day provides a sense of control when everything else feels unpredictable. And third, at least one emotionally available, supportive parent, a steady anchor in the storm. So as we move into the next segment, I want you to hold on to this. Your child's outcome is not determined by the fact that you're divorcing. It's shaped by how you divorce. And one of the most powerful things you can do is learn to talk about it well. In fact, there is research that says strong co-parenting relationships are as if their parents were still together. Segment 2, preparing for the conversation. All right. So you know the stakes. You understand the psychology. Now it's time to prepare for one of the hardest conversations you'll ever have. I'm going to walk you through the practical side. When to have the conversation, where to have it, how to structure what to say, and the critical mistakes most parents make without realizing it. Timing and setting. First, timing. Choose a moment where everyone is calm, not during an argument, not at bedtime, not before school. Weekends often work well because there is no immediate pressure to get somewhere. And if possible, do this together with your co-parent. A unified front communicates to your children that even though the marriage is ending, the parenting partnership is not. The location matters too. Choose somewhere your child feels safe. Home is usually best. Keep the television off, put the phones away. This is not a conversation to have in a car or a restaurant. Give it the weight and intimacy it deserves. One more thing about timing. Don't wait too long. If the decision is made, children need to hear it from you before they hear it from anyone else, a friend, a relative, or an overheard phone call. Being blindsided by secondhand information can feel like a betrayal. Core messages. Every initial conversation should hit 3 essential notes. 1, age-appropriate honesty. Children need the truth, but not the whole truth. They need to understand that mom and dad have decided to live in separate homes. They don't need to know about infidelity, financial disputes, or the specific grievances between you and your ex. Keep it simple and factual. 2, assurance that is not their fault. Say this explicitly. Say it more than once. Say it in 2 different ways. This is a decision between mom and dad. You did not cause this. Nothing you did or said made this happen. Children need to hear this even if they didn't ask, because many of them are thinking it and they are too afraid or confused to say so. 3, reassurance that they are loved and will be cared for. Tell them what will stay the same, their school, their friends, their bedtime routines, their favorite activities. Then address what will change with as much specificity as you can. Uncertainty is far more frightening to children than difficult facts. Common mistakes. I've coached dozens of families through this process, and I see the same pitfalls again and again. Oversharing. Your child is not your therapist or confidant. Sharing adult details, even with teenagers, puts them in a loyalty bind and forces them into caretaking role they are not equipped for. This is what psychologists call parentification, and research consistently links it to anxiety and adjustment problems. Bad-mouthing your co-parent. I cannot say this enough. Don't do this. When you criticize your child's other parent in front of them, you're not just expressing frustration. You're asking your children to reject part of themselves. Your child is half you and half their other parent. Attacking one is experienced as an attack on both. Making promises you can't keep. Nothing will change is well-intentioned but dishonest. Things will change. Acknowledge that honesty and focus on what you're doing to make it okay. Having the conversation once and considering it done. This is not a single talk. It's the beginning of an ongoing dialogue. Your child will have new questions at every developmental stage. Leave the door open wide. Expert insight from Dr. Elena Ramirez. I want to share a framework from someone whose work I deeply respect. Dr. Elena Ramirez, who is a licensed child psychologist with over 15 years of experience working with families in transition. She's developed a structure for how parents can approach that first conversation, and I think it's worth walking through together. Dr. Ramirez recommends starting by gathering everyone together in a comfortable space. Then you say something like this. We want to talk to you about something important. Mom and dad have been talking a lot, and we've decided that we're going to live in 2 different homes. This is a grown-up decision, and it has nothing to do with anything with you. We love you both more than anything in the world, and that will never, ever change. Then you pause. You let them absorb it. Don't rush to fill the sentences. Silence is processing. I know it's hard. You're going to want to keep talking because the silence feels unbearable. Resist that impulse. Give them space. Then address the practical. You're still going to go to the same school, see the same friends, and do all the things you love. Some things will be different, like where you sleep on different nights, but we're going to figure all that out together, and we'll always make sure you know what's happening. And finally, open the floor. Do you have any questions? It's okay if you don't right now. You can always ask us anything, anytime. What Dr. Ramirez stresses is the goal that conversations like this convey three things: honesty, stability, and unconditional love. You're not trying to explain everything. You're not trying to make it okay. You're creating a foundation that tells your child, we see you, we've got you, and this family love for you is not up for debate. And I want to add something from my own experience. It's okay if you cry during this conversation. In fact, showing healthy emotional models that is safe for your children to feel their own feelings too. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be present. Segment 3, age appropriate strategies. Now we're getting to the heart of this episode. Every child is unique, but developmental psychology gives us a reliable roadmap for how different age groups process divorce and what kind of communication reaches them most effectively. I'm going to break this into 3 groups: toddlers and preschoolers, school-age children, and teenagers. For each, I'll give you key principles and then a role-play dialogue so you can hear what it sounds like in practice. Toddlers and preschoolers, ages 2 through 5. Children at this age think in concrete, immediate terms. They don't understand divorce as a concept. What they understand is presence and absence. Is mommy here? Is daddy here? Will someone feed me? Will someone hold me at night? Key principles. Keep your language very simple. Short sentences, familiar words. Use physical comfort liberally. Hold them, hug them, let them sit in your lap. Maintain routines with near religious consistency. Same meal times, same bedtime, same stories, same blanket, and consider using children's books to help them process. Dinosaur's Divorce by Lauren Krasny Brown is a classic that used playful illustrations to normalize the experience. Two Homes by Claire Mazarel is another wonderful option that focuses on the positive. I have 2 homes and I love them both. Expect regression. A child who is sleeping through the night may start waking up again. A potty-trained child may have accidents. This is not a setback, it's a stress response. Respond with patience, not frustration. One more thing about this age group: transitional objects become incredibly important. A stuffed animal, a blanket, a special toy that travels between the houses. These items carry emotional continuity. Don't underestimate the power of a teddy bear that smells like mommy's house when your child is at daddy's. For a preschooler, that bear is a bridge between 2 worlds. Talking to a 4-year-old. Let me walk you through what this might sound like with a 4-year-old. I'm going to play both sides of this conversation so you can hear the rhythm of it. So you sit down with your child, maybe they're on your lap, and you say something like, "Hey, sweetie, come sit with me. I want to tell you something. You know how daddy's been sleeping in the other room? Well, daddy's going to have his own house now, and you're going to have 2 houses, one with mommy and one with daddy. And guess what? You get to have your own room and special things at both places." And your child might say something like, "But I don't want 2 houses. I want daddy here." And here's where it matters. You don't rush, you don't fix, you hold them and say, "I know, baby." And it's okay to feel sad about that. Daddy feels sad too sometimes. But daddy loves you so, so much, and you're going to see daddy all the time. This doesn't change how much we love you, not one little bit. Notice what happens there. Short sentences, immediate physical comfort, validation of the emotion. It's okay to feel sad. No abstract explanations, no blame, just love, presence, and reassurance. School-age children, ages 6 through 12. This is often the trickiest age group because they understand enough to worry, but not enough to fully process. School-age children are developing a stronger sense of fairness and justice, which means they may try to assign blame. They are also deeply sensitive to loyalty dynamics and can easily feel caught between 2 parents. Key principles. Give them more information than you'd give a preschooler, but still age appropriate. Let them ask questions and answer honestly without oversharing. Validate their emotions explicitly. Name the feeling for them if they can't. It sounds like you might be feeling scared about this. That makes complete sense. Keep individual conversations going after the initial family talk. Sometimes children share more in smaller moments or a car ride at bedtime while doing a puzzle together. Watch for signs of the fixer impulse. Some school-age children, especially firstborns, may try to hold their family together, mediating arguments, cheering everyone up, being the good kid. This is a form of emotional labor they shouldn't be carrying. Gently release them from that role. Another common pattern in this age group is what I call the reporter, a child who shuttles information between two homes, sometimes innocently, sometimes because they learned it gets a reaction. If your child comes home and says, Mom has a new friend who comes over a lot, resist the urge to interrogate. Simply say, thanks for sharing that with me. How was your weekend? Keep the focus on the experience, not on the intelligence gathering about your co-parent's life. Talking to a 9-year-old. Now let's shift to a 9-year-old. Different developmental stage, different conversations. Here's how this might go. You sit down together, both parents if possible, and say, hey, buddy, Mom and I need to talk to you about something. We've been thinking about this for a while, and we've decided that we're going to get a divorce. That means we're not going to be married anymore, and Dad is going to move to a new apartment. Now, a 9-year-old might come right at you with, is this because you fight all the time? And here's the key. You don't dodge it, and you don't assign blame. You say, that's a really smart question. Sometimes grown-ups have problems they can't fix, even when they try really hard. It's not about one person being right or wrong, and it's definitely not about anything you did. Then your child may shift to something practical. Will I still play on my soccer team? And you follow their lead. Absolutely. Your soccer team, your school, your friends, all of that stays the same. Both of us will be at as many games as we can, cheering you on. Did you hear how that worked? The parent handled the direct question about fighting without assigning blame. When the child shifted to a practical concern about soccer, the parent met them right there. That's responsive parenting in action. You follow that child's lead. Teenagers, age 13 plus. Teens are a different conversation entirely. They're developing abstract thinking, a sense of identity, and importantly, an understanding of romantic relationships. Divorce can feel deeply personal to them, like a betrayal of the family narrative they've built their identity around. Key principles: be more forthcoming with details within limits. Teens can handle, we've grown apart, or we want different things for our futures. They cannot and should not handle, your mother had an affair. Give them space to process and don't force conversations. Teens often need time before they're ready to talk, hours, days, and sometimes weeks. Make it clear the door is always open. Normalize a range of emotional responses. Anger is valid, sadness is valid, relief is valid, even numbness is valid. Be especially careful of parentification with teenagers. Because they may seem mature, it's tempting to lean on them for emotional support, to say things like, you're the man of the house now, or I don't know what I'd do without you. Resist this impulse. They're still children who need to be children. Also, be aware that teenagers may use divorce as leverage, playing one parent against the other to get what they want. This isn't manipulation born out of malice. It's an adolescent brain testing boundaries in a new landscape. Consistent rules and open communication between co-parents help prevent this. If your teen says, Mom lets me stay up until midnight, verify it before you react. United co-parenting is your best defense against divide and conquer tactics. Finally, keep an eye on your teenager's social world. Adolescents often process major events through their peer group. If they have a trusted friend, a school counselor, or a coach they confide in, that's a good thing. Encourage those connections rather than feeling threatened by them. Your teen having other safe adults in their life doesn't diminish your role. It strengthens their support network. Talking to a 15-year-old. All right, now the teenager. This one's a different beast entirely. Let me walk you through it. You approach your teen and say, hey, can we talk for a few minutes? There's something important your mom and I need to tell you. We've made a decision to get a divorce. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, and I'm sorry. And your teenager, because your teenagers are perceptive, they've been watching you for years, might say something like, I mean, I kind of figured you guys haven't been happy for a while. Don't dismiss that. Honor it. You say, you're perceptive, and I'm sorry you had to carry that awareness. You're right that things haven't been great between us for some time. We tried therapy, long conversations, and a lot of reflection, but we've come to the conclusion that we'll both be better parents and better people if we're not in this marriage. Then comes a practical question, because teens are wired to think about their world. So what happens now? Do I have to switch schools? And here's where you give them agency. No, you're staying at your school. Your routine stays the same as much as possible. We're still figuring out some details, and as we do, we'll keep you in the loop. If you have any opinions about any of it, living arrangements or schedule, we genuinely want to hear them. And look, if you're angry with us, that's completely fair. If you need space, take it. We're not going anywhere. A few things stand out here. You acknowledge what the teen already sensed without dismissing their experience. You are honest about the difficulty without burdening them with adult details. You invited their input on practical matters, which is developmentally appropriate because teens are building agency and autonomy. And you gave explicit permission for anger and space. That's emotional intelligence in practice. One more note on teenagers. Don't be surprised if the initial reaction seems muted. Many teens process inwardly before they react outwardly. The real conversations often happen days or weeks later in unexpected moments. Be patient and be ready. When your teen is finally ready to talk, drop everything. That moment of openness is precious and may not come again for a while. Segment 4, mitigation and healing strategies. So you've had the conversation, your children know. The question now becomes, what do you do every day, every week, every month to protect their emotional well-being? I'm going to give you 5 evidence-based strategies. Strategy 1, commit to positive co-parenting. This one is absolutely critical. And I say this as someone who went through an expensive 8-day jury trial during my own divorce. It was adversarial. It was painful. And when it was over, I made a clear choice. I would not let that courtroom dynamic define my children's childhood. My ex and I chose to do co-parenting right. We communicate respectfully. We show up together at school events, at sports events. We never put our kids in the middle, and our children are thriving because of it. The research backs this up overwhelmingly. The single most powerful predictor of positive outcomes for children of divorce is low interparental conflict. Not wealth, not two-parent homes, low conflict. If you can achieve a cooperative co-parenting relationship, you are giving your children the greatest gift possible. Practically, this means establishing clear communication channels. Many families I coach use apps like Our Family Wizard or Talking Parents to keep logistics organized and emotions contained. It means biting your tongue when your co-parent does something that frustrates you, at least in front of the kids. And it means celebrating together when you can. Birthdays, graduations, important milestones. Your child should never have to choose which parent to look at when they cross the finish line. Strategy number 2, protect and maintain routines. Children draw emotional security from predictability. When the family structure changes, the daily structure becomes an anchor. Keep meal times consistent. Keep bedtime rituals intact. Keep extracurricular activities going. Even small consistencies. The same cereal at breakfast. The same goodnight song. Signal to your child's nervous system that the world is still stable and safe. This extends to both homes. One of the most effective things co-parents can do is align on core routines. Similar bedtimes, similar homework expectations, similar screen time limits. The specifics don't have to be identical, but the general rhythm should feel familiar. When a child can predict what happens next in their day, the anxiety of an unpredictable family situation becomes much more manageable. Strategy 3, teach emotional coping skills. Help your children build a vocabulary for their emotions. For younger children, a feelings chart with faces can be transformative. For school-age kids, journaling or drawing can provide a safe outlet. For teenagers, giving them permission to access therapy or a school counselor without stigma is one of the most important things you can do. One technique from the Child Mind Institute that I love is called coping ahead. Before a potentially stressful moment, like the first night in a new house or a school event where both parents will be present, talk it through in advance. What might feel hard about tonight? What could we do if you're starting to feel overwhelmed? This gives children a sense of agency in a situation where they have very little control. Another approach that worked beautifully, especially for younger children, is the worry box. Give your child a small box or jar and some slips of paper. When they have a worry, they write it down or draw it if they're too young to write. Fold it up and put it in the box. Then once a week, you open the box together and talk through the worries. Some will have resolved themselves. Others become starting point of meaningful conversations. The physical act of putting the worries somewhere outside of themselves can be profoundly relieving for a child who feels overwhelmed. Strategy 4, protect your children from conflict exposure. If you and your co-parent need to have a difficult conversation, have it out of earshot. Use text or email for logistical communication when emotions are running high. If a conflict erupts in front of your children, repair it openly. Let them see that adults can disagree, manage it, and return to respect. Modeling constructive conflict resolutions is itself a form of emotional education. And if things escalate to the point where constructive conversation isn't possible, create a buffer. A mediator, a therapist, or even a structured communication tool can help. In my own coaching practice, I've seen parents transform their co-parenting relationship by adopting a simple rule, the BIF method. Keep communication brief, informative, friendly, and firm. No editorializing, no passive aggressiveness, no rehashing old wounds. Just business handled with basic human respect. Your child doesn't need to be behind the curtain of your co-parenting negotiations. They just need to know the curtain is there, and behind it, the adults are handling things. Strategy 5, leverage professional and community resources. You don't have to navigate this alone. Sesame Workshop, Little Children, Big Challenges, Divorce is a free research-informed resource with videos, printable guides, and activities designed to help young children process divorce. It's beautiful work. Helpguide.org offers plain language guides for parents navigating these conversations. And age-appropriate children's therapy, particularly play therapy for younger children and talk therapy for teens, can provide a safe, neutral space for processing that doesn't put either parent in the middle. I also recommend the Co-Parenting Handbook by Karen Bonnell and Kristen Little, as well as the Conscious Divorce Perspective that we use here at Reclaim and Reboot. One resource I want to highlight specifically for fathers: so much of the divorce support infrastructure is oriented towards mothers, and that's understandable given the demographics of primary custody. But dads matter enormously in this equation. Research consistently shows that children who maintain a strong relationship with both parents after divorce fare significantly better. If you're a father listening to this and feeling sidelined by the process, don't give up. Stay engaged, show up. Your presence in your child's life is irreplaceable, and the research supports this unequivocally. A father's story. Michael from Georgia. I want to share a story from someone I've worked with. I'll call him Michael. He's the father of 2 from Savannah, Georgia. His kids were 8 and 11 when he and his ex-wife split. Michael told me the first 6 months were rough. His older son was furious with him. His younger daughter would cry every time he dropped her off at mom's. He said he felt like he was failing them every single day. But then something shifted. Michael and his ex made a decision together. They decided that whatever happened between them, they would never make their kids choose. They set up a shared calendar. They created a consistent schedule. They went to the school play together and sat in the same row. Michael told me it was awkward at first, painfully awkward, but their kids noticed. His son told him later, "Dad, I knew I was going to be okay when I saw you and Mom talking after my game." 2 years later, Michael's kids are doing great. They're open about their feelings. They're strong. His daughter actually told a friend, "My parents don't live together, but they're still a team." Michael about broke down when he heard that. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "There were nights I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment and just cried. But every time I showed up, every time I chose my kids over my anger, it got a little easier, and it's worth every ounce of effort." A story like Michael's remind me of why I do this work. The effort you put into co-parenting doesn't just protect your children, it teaches them what love looks like when it's tested. Segment 5, listener Q&A and real stories. Before we close, I want to address a few questions and stories that have come in from our community. These are from real people, names changed, and details anonymized, but the emotions are very real. Question: what do I do when my ex badmouths me to the kids? This is one of the most common and painful situations parents face. Here's my guidance. Do not retaliate. Do not defend yourself by attacking your ex. Instead, create a space where your children can share what they're hearing without fear or either parent's reaction. You might say, "I'm sorry you heard that. Your mom and I see things differently. I'm not going to say anything bad about your mom because I love that she's your mom. What I want you to know is that you never have to choose sides. You're allowed to love both of us. If the bad mouthing is persistent and damaging, document it and consult with a family therapist or your attorney. In some cases, a parenting coordinator can help establish and communicate boundaries. But in the moment with your child, take the high road every single time." And here's the thing that's hard to believe when you're in the thick of it. Children figure it out. They grow up, and they see who is the parent that stayed steady, who didn't use them as weapons, who chose their well-being over their own anger. You may not get the credit for it now, but you will, I promise you. My 13-year-old won't talk to me since the divorce. What should I do? A parent in our online community shared this. My son was 13 when we told him. He just went to his room and he put his headphones on. That was 3 months ago. He's polite but distant. It's like I lost him. First, I want to say to you, you haven't lost him. Withdrawal is one of the most common responses in early adolescence. It's not rejection, it's protection. He's building walls because the ground underneath him shifted. Don't force conversation. Instead, stay consistently present. Keep showing up, leave small notes, text him things that aren't about the divorce, a funny meme, a link to a song he might like. Create low pressure opportunities for connection. Cooking together, a drive to get ice cream, watching his favorite shows side by side without any agenda. One parent I worked with started writing short letters to her teenage daughter, not about the divorce, but about memories they shared, things she was proud of, what she loved about her. When she'd leave them on her daughter's pillow, it took weeks, but one evening her daughter walked in and said, "Thanks for the letters, Mom." That crack in the wall was the beginning of healing. I share this because I want every parent listening to understand something fundamental. Presence is more powerful than any perfect conversations. You don't have to say the right thing every time. You just have to keep showing up. Your teenager is watching, even when they pretend they're not. They're recording every instance of you reaching out, every moment you respect their boundaries while keeping the door open. Trust the process. A child's perspective. I want to share one more story. I came across an anonymous post on a parenting forum that stopped me in my tracks. This person wrote, "I was a child of divorce at age 9. What I remember most isn't the day they told me, it's the year after. They talked about their dad showing up at every single baseball game, even though he lived 45 minutes away. Mom never saying one bad word about their dad, even when they could tell she wanted to. Both parents sitting together at their 5th grade graduation." And they wrote, "I'm 32 now and I'm fine, better than fine. I know what real love looks like because my parents showed me, even after they stopped loving each other that way." That right there is what conscious divorce looks like in practice. Not perfection, intentional, brave, ongoing love. Remember this, they're watching and they're learning. So let me bring it all home. Divorce is hard. There's no sugarcoating that. But the conversation you have with your children about divorce is not just a conversation. It's a declaration. It's you telling them, even in the hardest moment of my life, I'm going to show up for you. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to protect you. Here are the takeaways I want you to carry with you. 1, understand the psychology. Your child's age and developmental stage shape how they experience divorce. Meet them where they are. 2, prepare thoughtfully. Choose the right time, the right place, and the right words. Tell them together if you can. Keep it honest, age appropriate, and free of blame. 3, use the scripts and strategies we walked through today. Adapt them to your family. Practice them with your co-parent or your therapist before you sit down with your kids. 4, commit to the long game. Low conflict, consistent routines, emotional availability, positive co-parenting. These aren't one-time actions. They're daily choices that build your child's emotional security brick by brick. 5, get support. You are not meant to do this alone. Whether it's a therapist, a divorce coach, a trusted friend, or a resource like Sesame Workshop or helpguide.org, reach for help and let people in. And I want to end where I started, with hope. The research is clear and my own experience confirms it. Children of divorce can absolutely thrive and be resilient. With care, with intention, with the kind of brave love that just says, I may not be able to save this marriage, but I will protect these kids. They don't just survive, they thrive. They grow into resilient, empathetic, emotionally intelligent human beings. I think about the emotional security theory we discussed earlier. Davies and Cummings, insight that children's well-being is tethered to their sense of safety within the family. Here's the beautiful truth in that framework. The family doesn't have to look the way it used to in order to feel safe. 2 homes can be just as secure as one. A restructured family can be just as loving as an intact one. The form changes. The foundation of love, consistency, and emotional attunement, that endures. My daughter, the one who asked me if I still loved her mom, she's thriving today. She knows she's loved by 2 parents who put her first. And she knows that even when love changes shape, that people who love her will always show up. And by the way, she loves having 2 different rooms. That's the legacy of a conscious divorce. That's the You 2.0 promise. Not perfection, transformation. This is the reclaim phase in action. Reclaiming your family's emotional health. It's a reboot, rebuilding trust, structure, and connection. And it's the becoming. Watching your children emerge from this experience, not broken, but braver, more compassionate, more resilient, and more whole. The gain. Divorce is brutal. I know, I've lived it. I'm not saying it's easy to think positive. What I'm saying is this. You have a choice about where you put your attention. The gap. Everything lost, everything you don't have, whether you're not measuring up, or the gain, or what you've survived, what you're building, who you're becoming, progress of your own making. Both are true, but only one moves you forward. Only one helps you build your U 2.0. So here's a challenge for you tonight. Before bed, write down 3 gains from today. Just 3. Got out of bed, were kind to myself, went for a run, didn't send that angry text, let myself cry, then I stopped. I read to my kid. I made it throughout this difficult day. I listened to this episode and took notes. I had the courage to have a hard conversation. That's proof you're not stuck. That's proof that you're moving, growing, and transforming. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story, your breakthroughs, and your questions. You can find me at www.reclaimandreboot.me for coaching, resources, and a community of people who get it. Email me directly at justin@reclaimandreboot.me. I read every message. Pick up my books, U 2.0, Divorce: A Better Way Forward, and the U 2.0 Workbook, both available on Amazon. They're practical, compassionate guides to help you navigate this transition and create a stronger, healthier version of yourself. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It really does make a huge difference in helping us reach more people who are going through this right now. You don't have to do this alone. I'm Justin Milrad. This has been the Conscious Divorce Podcast. Until next time, be brave, be kind, and choose love, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.